Hey guys, welcome to this session by Intellipaat. Whenever the talk is about CRM, there is one tool that takes center stage all the time. That is Salesforce. Well, Salesforce is one of the CRM tools that is so popular today that there is a huge demand for proficient developers and admins especially. Now, keeping that in mind, we here at Intellipaat have come up with this top Salesforce admin interview questions and answers set that you guys can use as a guide to learn all of these questions and answer them in the correct way and in the clear and the concise way. Well, guys, before we begin with this session, make sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon so that you'll never miss any updates from us. So we'll be checking out a lot of things about Salesforce from the beginner level to the intermediate questions and of course the advanced questions as well. So without further ado, let's begin the session now.
So coming to the first question on the top Salesforce admin interview questions and answers set, it states explain Salesforce admin certification characteristics. Well, there are three different characteristics that you really should know about if you're approaching the Salesforce Admin 201 certification. In a way where, what you learn is a lot about how workflow, is functioned about, and of course, a lot about field creation and how you can go on to do a lot of task management as well. So who can learn Salesforce Admin training? Well, at the point of time, you can have system admins who can turn, you can have architects, security analysts, and of course, any other enthusiasts who are willing to, put the time, effort, and the skills needed for Salesforce Admin 201 as well. And then what's the average salary? Well, the average salary is around an average of $82,000 per annum in the USA. And of course, this is an average salary. The number will keep changing. And of course, it consists of both the lower median and the higher range too. And then coming to the second question, it says expand CRM and explain what it is. Well, CRM actually stands for Customer Relationship Management. It is one of these applications that we use to revolutionize the world of how we can provide services on the internet and then have customers interact with their business counterparts, right? Well, Salesforce is one of these platforms that helps us to automate and digitize all the marketing functions that's required. And of course, this at the end of the day means a lot of increase in the revenues and the profits too. It's not only that the strategy of actually bringing in more revenue and profit is done by the customers, clients, and the actual sales that happen, right? So this one important thing that surrounds the entire world of the revolves around the entire world of CRM, of course, as the C suggests, it's customer value itself. There are four types of CRM initiatives, as you should know. You have customer acquisition, customer retention, customer churning, and of course, customer win back. So, depending on the particular situation the customer is in, or in the initiative that he or she is in, they'll be assigned a quota. And of course, at the end of the day, they will be responsible for the business to drive in more profits and revenues. And you have CRM experts who make sure to bridge that gap as well. And then coming to question number 3, it says distinguish between Salesforce.com and Force.com. Well, to be honest, both of these are relatively the same, but what differs is the actual functionality. See, what happens in Salesforce.com is that we use it to help build CRM functionality based applications. For example, let's say you have an iPhone application that has the capability to either make phone calls, it can store all your contact details, and any of the other functions that a phone should do, right? So if you're an app to do that, you'll be using something like Salesforce.com to do it. But then you'll be using Force.com when you want to customize a data model and see how you can generate and build a good user interface. See, you will need an iOS working environment that can run and build apps, right? So for that particular purposes, you will be using Force.com, and this simple difference is something that's very vital because functionality is the big name here. Coming to question number 4, it says what are the available portals in Salesforce? Well, there are actually 3 types of portals that are available in Salesforce. You have the customer portal, you have the partner portal, and of course the self-service portal. With the customer portals, what it does is that it enables us to actually utilize all the capabilities of the internet, like a very streamlined flow of channeling data. As a streamlined flow of channel where you can deliver good service at the end of the day. Next, we have partner portals. Partner portals make sure that you have users who are basically partners that they can log into Salesforce by using a website, and of course, it will be used for non-partners as well. And then coming to self-service portals. Self-service portal here, customers will be able to search for all the details of an organization by making use of this post, and that's a pretty simple task to go about doing that too. And then coming to the 5th question, it states, why do we use tabs in Salesforce? Mention the types of tabs. Well, in Salesforce, the website itself, a list of tabs are actually placed under the same name, the tab menu. And of course, what are tabs used for? They used to access an object's data, right? Well, if you're at this point in time in this video, you really should know this. And of course, there are three types of tabs. We have web tabs, we have the Visualforce tabs, and of course, we have the custom tabs. So when you ask this question, make sure to answer it this way. And then coming to question number 6, it states what is profile? Mention the types of profiles available in Salesforce. Well, a profile is something which is very similar to what settings and permissions would be, right? It's exactly that. It is actually used to perform different functions, whatever it is, depending on what the users have defined and how one can go about managing records as well. So there are two types of profiles that you have to know about. One is the standard profiles and one is the custom profiles. Standard profiles are of course created by force.com. Custom profiles, as the name suggests, are created by the users themselves. For standard profiles, you'll have a standard user, you'll have a solution manager, marketing user, you'll have read only, you'll have system admin, and a lot of other profiles as well. Coming to question number 7, it says how to delete or freeze users in Salesforce.com. Well, this is a very tricky question. In fact, it's a very important question. You have to know that you cannot delete a user in Salesforce.com, but you can deactivate by using the freeze option. So deletion is not possible. You can deactivate by using the freeze option. To freeze someone, you have to go to setup, manage users and users there. Find the user that you want to deactivate on, and of course, you can click on freeze there. So it's as simple as that, but you do have to specifically mention that deleting a user is not possible. And then coming to question number 8, it states mention the ways to store files, documents, and images in Salesforce.com. Well, you can store files, documents, and images on the Salesforce website by using a lot of means. You can use attachments, and of course, you can bring the files via documents. You can have your Google Drive bring the data. You can have a lot of libraries, shatter files, and of course, a lot of other ways. So the convenience of Salesforce, you cannot beat at this, because at the end of the day, you can bring in data from a wide variety of sources without having to do much. Coming to question number 9, it says give one-word answers to the following questions. Well, the questions are like this. In the Visualforce page, how many field dependencies are used? The answer is 10. We use 10 field dependencies in the Visualforce page. So can two users have the same profile in Salesforce? Well, of course they can, right? So the answer to that is yes. And which field cannot be added as a custom index? Well, this is again a very important question. I'm sure you would have guessed the answer by now. It's the formula field. And can we edit a formula field value in a record? The answer is no, you cannot edit a formula field value in the record. And of course, can we use sharing rules to restrict data access? The answer is no, you cannot use sharing rules to restrict the data access, right? So these are certain simple yes or no questions that can be asked in a sort of a rapid fire kind of a manner in the interviews, and if you are asked this, well, now you know how to answer them. And then coming to the 10th question, it states how to set the login hours and the login IP ranges for the users in Salesforce. Well, login hours, right? So again, it is set by the organization itself, and of course you can log in the before or and then of course you can restrict the login time before or after whatever hours have been defined. To do that, you just have to go into setup, administration, manage users, profiles, and in the profiles you can work with logic hours. And then for logic IP, what we're trying to do with logic IP is here we're trying to restrict the attempt from an unauthorized IP address. To again go on to manage this, you'll have to go to the same pane to set up administration setup, manage users, and of course profiles there. So this can be used in an easy way to set up the login hours and the login IP ranges for the user. So if you want someone to not log in apart from the restricted time, you can do that. If you want to block off unauthorized IP addresses, or even let's say you know an IP address and you don't want the IP person sitting behind the IP address to access your data, well, of course in that particular case you can map your login hours and login IP to make sure that the data is safe. And then coming to question number 11, it says list the characteristics and functions of a roll-up summary field. Well, there are many characteristics of a roll-up summary field, and 3 or 4 are extremely important. One thing you have to know is that it is actually created for a master detail relationship, right? So that's its entire purpose. But then if you're wondering, is it possible to go on for a lookup relationship? The answer is no, it's not meant for that, right? And then one important characteristic you have to know is that auto numbers will not be available in the case of the roll-up summary field. You cannot change the field type, and of course it has the capability to derive the data from the child object, right? And functions of all the roll-up summary summary fields are, you can have the min function, the max function, sum count. So all of these aggregation functions are possible when you're using the roll-up summary field. So these are some of the top 4 or 5 characteristics of a roll-up summary field. And then coming to question number 12, it says, what are the different kinds of reports that are present in Salesforce? Well, there are 3 or 4 very important kinds of reports that you have to know about. We have the tabular report, we have matrix report, you have summary report, and of course you have the joined report. Now, when we're talking about tabular report is something which is extremely similar to what a spreadsheet would look like, right? It's simple. You can figure out the data in a fast way, in a rapid way, and it's one of the best ways that we have on how easily can we create a list of records and to use them later, right? And then we have the summary report. Summary report is very similar to tabular report, but here, we can allow users to group rows of data. You can create charts based on the data, and of course, you can view all the subtotals and do a lot more too. And then we have the matrix report. Matrix report is in terms a little bit similar to the summary report, but here, the users can group the data and summarize the data based on both rows and columns. And then we have joined report. Well, with joined report, it is very easy to create multiple report blocks, which has the capabilities to provide a different variety of view for the data. And each of these block acts as a sub report in itself, right? So these are the 4 kinds of reports that are present in Salesforce. And then coming to question number 13, it states define dynamic dashboards and can we schedule dynamic dashboards? Why do we use dynamic dashboards, right? Well, these basically help us to set all of the metrics that we have in any sort of organizational usage. They are put into place because we require all the security settings for dashboards and of course, at salesforce.com as well. And why are they created? Well, they're created to provide security settings for dashboards at salesforce.com, right? And of course, there are 2 setting options that are present when one goes on to use dynamic dashboards. You can run it as a specified user or you can run it as a logged in user as well. So this kind of a dynamic view that Salesforce provides is definitely a huge advantage in terms of CRM tools, in my opinion. And then coming to question number 14, it states name the different workflow components in salesforce.com. Well, there are 5 workflow components that you really have to mention when you ask this question. It's the workflow rules, you have the workflow field updates, you have tasks, you have workflow email alerts, and of course the workflow outbound messages as well. So if you're asked the workflow components, make sure to mention at least 4 or 5 of these components that are present in salesforce.com. And then coming to question number 15, it says what are the limitations of a time-dependent workflow? Well, there are 2 main things when we talk about whenever we think about time dependency and how time dependent workflow limits a lot of things, right? One thing is that time triggers will not support the usage of minutes or seconds. That should definitely be one of the setbacks. And of course, time triggers cannot be able to reference formula fields whenever you're talking about related objects and how one can go on to merge the fields as well. But then you cannot add or remove a time trigger depending on 2 things. See, you cannot add or remove them if there is a workflow rule that is currently active, and of course if it's included in the package itself, right? In that particular case, it would not be possible to add or remove a time trigger there. And then coming to the 16th question, it says how many ways are there to call an Apex class? Well, there are actually 4 ways of how you can call an Apex class. The popular ones are by using triggers, you have visual page, you have web service, and of course you have email services as well, right? So these are the 4 important ways of how one can call an Apex service. And on that note, coming to the 17th question, it says how to insert multiple records at a time. Well, you have a code snippet on your screen that provides the ability to insert multiple records in a single go. So make sure to take a look at that. And guys, I have one advice whenever, you're asked questions like this. If always handy, or open up the Salesforce website, go into your account, and of course, go on to show that practically have your laptop handy and of course an internet connection as well. So during an interview, wherever possible, in my opinion, it is always it'll add a lot of value to your candidature if you can show things practically rather than write it down. I mean, of course, you can begin by writing down the piece of code, and then you can offer the interviewer saying that you can show it practically if he or she agrees, which I'm sure they will. In that particular case, you should definitely take the practical approach there. Now, with that, coming to the next question, the 18th question, it says when do we use data loader? See, data loader is used in these these particular scenarios. One, when you really have to load more than 50,000 or somewhere around 50 lakh records, and of course when you have to load an object which is not yet supported by any other web-based importing means, when you have to export your data. Why do we export our data? For backups, of course. And then when you want to prevent all the duplicates that happens whenever you're uploading the records, right? It's not only this, for example, let's say you want your data to be loaded on when you're, for example, performing multiple mapping in the future as well. So even for that, data loaders are used effectively. Coming to the 19th question, it states define SaaS or SaaS. Well, SaaS stands for software as a service. It's one of the cloud service provisions. It's a service that's provided where you can develop an application by saving a lot of money based on hardware, based on software, based on requirement and scaling support too. So, you can have all of the web services and SOAs or the service oriented architectures when you're going to use SaaS. And of course, there are many top providers. We have Abico, we have Excelops, we have Akamai, we have App Dynamics and Apprenda. These are some of the top SaaS providers out there. Now, there's a good chance you'll be asked about the other services as well. So let's check that out. For example, the next question may be, okay, define PaaS. Well, PaaS stands for platform as a service. Well, here, a platform is given to you. Hardware, storage, network services, and an operating system, a working operating system is given to you to the cloud. But then to use all of these services, right, it's based on your subscription. You'll have to pay, just like how you'll be renting hardware, right? It's similar, but it's on the cloud. So who are the top PaaS providers we have? We have AppScale, of course. We have EB2, which is the Elastic Beanstalk from AWS. We have Epistry, and we have CA Technologies, and we have Engineer. These guys are the top PaaS providers out there. And then, of course, the next question we'll have to check out is IaaS. Well, IaaS stands for infrastructure as a service. So what the cloud provider provides here is, for example, storage, hosting services, servers, and a lot more. So you have the complete infrastructure that is given to you on the cloud platform. You have AWS, you have AT&T, CA Technologies, Cloud Scaling, Bluelock, Eucalyptus, and then, of course, there are other companies out there who do a very good IaaS too. So depending on the requirement, you would pick up one of these. So if you want a PaaS service, you can pick up an offering from that. If you want SaaS or IaaS, depending on what's needed and what's the need of the hour, you can go on to pick that. So all these three questions can be asked in another way. You can be asked to differentiate between IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. In that particular case, now with these three answers, you know what each of the offerings are in terms of cloud storage, right? So you can go on to answer them in an effective way. With that, coming to the 22nd question, it says, what are the different Salesforce editions that are present currently? Well, currently we have 5 different Salesforce editions. You have Salesforce Essential, Salesforce Professional, Salesforce Enterprise, Unlimited, and Salesforce Developer as well, right? And it always adds value for you guys to talk 1 or 2 lines about these editions in case if you have used any of them, or in fact, whatever you have used, right? It would definitely add value to talk about that too. And then coming to the 23rd question, it says, what are login hours and login IP ranges in Salesforce? Well, we already discussed what this is. This is a very important question, so I really had to mention this again, right? So you can schedule a login and log out based on the working hours or the time limit. You can flag a user who does not keep to the schedule and to go on to change these login hours. You can go on to set up administration, manage users and profiles to go on to do that. To reiterate, what is IP ranges? Well, IP ranges is, let's say, when a person tries to log in from an unknown IP, then the entire organization gets alerted based on that, right? So you can restrict the user. And all of these organizations, they use an IP range, right? So these IP ranges can be used in fact to provide the required secure access, and of course you can prevent any kind of loss or misuse of data too. You'll go to a similar section in the Salesforce UI to go on to change the login IP ranges too. This is a very important question, so make sure you know how to go about doing this. If you have a laptop in front of you, please do open it and do show this practically. And then coming to the 24th question, it says, what is field level security and how can it be controlled? Well, field level security, why is it even required, right? Well, field level security, why is it required? It helps us to control all the accessibility of a user to any particular data field that he or she may or may not be authorized to take a look at or edit, right? So if you're providing one user with the access to, let's say, see, edit, manipulate, or delete data, present in an object, well, in this particular case, you might be giving the person these edit and manipulation rights based on his or her work. And of course, you can hide all of the And of course, you can hide all of these details and objects from the other users who are not authorized to modify the data that's present too. So to control each of these single fields, right, we have field level security. You can have profiles, you can have permission sets, and it can be done in a very easy way. So coming to question number 25, it says, what is a custom metadata type? Well, you really should know what a custom metadata type is, right? We use it to store all of the information about an organization. As the name suggests, it's a custom object that we have. It can be customized based on the requirement. You can package it, upgrade it. You can have details of deployments and a lot of other things too. So, we use it to make sure that we can configure the application without really having to break our head or spend a lot of time thinking about data migration and all the policies and everything you have to follow for that. So rather than doing it manually, it can now be done by making use of a sandbox, which makes things even more easier to go about. And then coming to the 26th question, it says, why are you applying for the Salesforce role in our company? Well, when you're answering this question, right, you'll have to convince the interviewer about your interests, your incline towards Salesforce, and why you think Salesforce is having a revolutionary impact, of course, on your life as a career and out there as a business as well. It adds a lot of value if you talk about the impact and the usage of Salesforce in the particular company that you're interviewing for, and how you think that it is adding value to them and how better can it be done. But then to go on to talk about why that particular company itself, in that case, you really have to need to know the job description in detail. You have to know about what's expected of you, what the company does, how you would fit in, and do you think you are the right fit for the role. To provide one answer for all of these questions would definitely be impossible. So it depends on you guys, but then take that approach to answer it, and you will impress the interviewer that way. And then coming to the 27th question, it states, what is your plan after joining for this Salesforce admin role? Well, again, this is one of those questions which shows your interest in this particular field. To answer this, talk about how you want to invest your time to understand what the Salesforce architecture that is already existing in the company is like, how you are willing to put yourself out there on the map, and of course how you are willing to bring some changes. All the goal is to make sure that you can talk about this in a structured way. See, for example, Salesforce is a CRM tool where a lot of trendy things whenever that comes about in all of the world of CRM. Salesforce are the people who are going to jump on it first, right? On that particular case, you have to talk about how you can learn new things and implement it, verify if it's working, and all of these in a rapid manner in a production environment too. And then if you're approaching the question in this particular way, I am sure you can impress the interviewer. And then coming to question number 28, it states, do you have any previous experience in Salesforce? Well, if you do have past experiences, and if you're coming from a same Salesforce background, do talk about that, because with that, the interviewer is trying to understand what, you cannot mention all your details on the resume, right? You cannot have a 10-page resume to talk about what you had done in the previous company. Now, when you're given a chance, you definitely should talk about what work you did, with your team, and of course, what is the impact you had on the organization, what was your takeaway, and it's two sides of the bridge. It's how you helped the organization and how the old organization helped you shape your career as well. But then if you're a fresher who's asked this question, you can say, of course, that you do not have any professional experience, but if you have interned previously in an environment which uses Salesforce, or if you have done any projects or any explorations on your own to learn Salesforce, or if you have a certification program done in Salesforce, this is the right time to answer that. And then coming to the 29th question, it says, do you possess any other skill that can add value to this Salesforce admin role? See, if you're at this video, I am sure you will already know all the primary skills that's needed for the Salesforce admin role, right? So the interviewer will not ask you what are the skills that's required for this particular job, because if you're already there interviewing, there's a good chance you already have these skills. But what are the other skills which are extremely important? You'll require very good communication and team playing skills for sure, because if it's a big project that you're handling, it's a very good chance you will not be soloing it out. And of course, you need to know how to go on to handle complex user interface, because sometimes things with Salesforce can ramp up pretty easily, and how to work with data is something you're going to have to work. And then of course, another thing is that you really need the know-how of how you can go on to work with data and handle the same too, right? So if you talk about 4 or 5 other skills, or what we call as secondary skills, it is definitely going to add value to your candidature. And then coming to the 30th question, it says, have you earned any sort of certification to improve your learning and implementation process? Well, again, a certification program is going to add immense wealth of knowledge to you, right? So you will be trained by industry level professionals across the globe. You will get a lot of knowledge. You'll become proficient in all of the concepts that's required based on what kind of certification you're approaching. And at the end of the day, you can go from beginner to an expert real quick if you are willing to put in the right amount of time and efforts into it, right? This is all good. This is for you. But what does it say to the interviewer? Well, to the interviewer, it states three good points if you are certified. One thing is that it shows that you have an interest to actually advance your career in this particular field. You might be coming from a very different background, right? You might be coming from a commerce background or another development background, and you saw that you have interest in CRM and that you found that you're good with Salesforce. So in the particular case, you have put in the good amount of time, money, and effort to become an expert. Going from a beginner to becoming an expert shows a strong aspiration, right? And of course, it's not only that. If you've picked up a certification program, it means that you are an effective learner. You have the capabilities to learn things and implement industry level projects. And on that note, how should you answer this question? See, of course, if you have multiple certification offerings, examinations that you have cleared, do talk about them, do list everything. But if you're talking about certification programs, one thing in my opinion is, do not take a lot of time to answer what it is that you have learned through that, but then do talk about how you have used what you have learned. Well, in that particular case, all of these interviewers and recruiters are behind your knowledge, right? They want to know what you have practically done and how can you start contributing to their company in a quick way. For that reason alone, you will require a lot of practical knowledge that's going to help you in the job as well. See, this is something which is very important, talking about the practical experiences, projects, use cases, and a lot of those things instead of just the theoretical concepts of what you have learned.
We hope the Stop Salesforce interview questions and answer set was of help for you all. Use this as a guide to make sure to approach the questions correctly and, of course, answer them effectively as well. On that note, I wish you all the very best for your interviews. I hope you all are keeping safe, and I'm more than excited to see you on the next one.